Hello, I'm Daniela. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a fabric collage with a specific element in mind. In the video today, I take images that I've painted, watercolor paintings, and made into fabric, but I make each image the focal point of my piece. If you don't have that fabric, it's not a problem. You can use any fabric you have that you like the image of. You cut out the piece, and then we attach it, and then embellish it from there. These make little great things to tuck in your fabric journal. They're just little slow stitching pieces, little collage fabrics, and I think they are beautiful. So let's get started.
So here's another example of something you might want to put in your fabric book. It's just a little card, really, made out of fabric. You can glue it together or stitch it. I like to do a combination of both. A lot of it depends on the materials that I'm working with. I think this trim glues down nicely, and I like to stitch the pearls here. But let me show you just a variation, and at the end of the video I have lots of variations to show you. Now this is a great technique when you have fabric that has a specific image, not an overlapped print. So these are some images that I've cut from various pieces of fabric that I had, kind of making a patch just from that specific image. This one is from this type of fabric. This was another one. I just think these are beautiful images, and I wanted to use them in a way that really focused on that image. So here's an example of that fabric before it's cut. I have all these different images to choose from, again, for the different shapes and sizes. Here's another example with some beautiful fabric. This nice big patch or any of these would work beautifully. They're just gorgeous. And there's so much fabric to choose from. It really depends on your style. Now I create watercolors, and so I have them made into little fabric, specifically with the intention of creating this project. So I have some nutcrackers, some gnomes, some Christmas cookies, cupcakes, and they're all on that swatch of fabric, that yard piece. I have some ornaments, so I can use any of these. And in today's project, I'm going to use one of the little nutcracker faces. I have them with a few different color backgrounds, but it doesn't really matter which fabric piece you use. Just find one that you like. So here's the fabric piece that I'm going to use today. I have my background piece, my batting, that I'm going to use. It's actually quilted fabric, but I'm going to use it as batting. You could use a second piece of just cotton fabric if you wanted. I have this white fabric. It's so beautiful. It's white on white. It's holly leaves. You can really see the printing. And that's going to be my background piece. So I'll trim this piece up nicely and then set that down. And then I have this beautiful pink to pick up from that image here, and I want to put that down. And then I have some trim here. And I'll play around with where I'm going to put the trim. Again, I'm pulling the colors from my image here. Lastly, I have some beads because I want to make a beaded frame for my image. So I made little stitches with one strand of embroidery floss to hold down my little portrait here. I stitched this just with some big stitches. I used 3 strands there and some pearl cotton to hold the main piece down. And I'm really pleased with this. I just think it looks very beautiful. The colors are a little untraditional. So now I want to decide what I want to do for trim. And I have these 2 blues that incorporate the blue from here. So I think, well, that's pretty simple, but I think that's what I'm going to do. Just hold it like that. And now I'll set those aside, and I want to create a border with these little beads. So the way I do that is these are very tiny little gold beads. I threaded my needle with just some pearl cotton here, and I made sure that my needle had a very small eye so that the beads would fit through it. And I like to work in sections. So I'll start up here at 12 o'clock, and I'm trying to come just right on that seam. And then I'll just string maybe a dozen or so beads onto that needle. So now I just have my beads. I have about 16 here strung on. And I just want to go and stitch down right at the very end of where this grouping falls. And I want them to have a nice little curve. So I'll just play around with that quite nicely. Put my needle right where it should be. And then when I pull my beads, I can play with it and get a little give. I just want them to make a nice curve and frame that portrait here. So now I'll just go in, bringing my needle back to maybe 2 or 3 beads, maybe 4, right to where I started, and I'll make sure that my needle comes up in the exact spot, and I'll feed it through 2 or 3 beads. So I have 3 beads down, I'll feed it through 2 beads, pull it across, and I'm just anchoring it in place, using the tension from the string to hold it down. You could also do a couching stitch where you stitch around each of the beads. I like to use this little stitch here because these beads are so delicate and I don't want the string to show. So you do have a couple of options. You just want to make sure that you get that needle right in the exact spot in between the beads. So I come up, string through 2 or 3 beads with my needle, and press it down into the fabric. And I'll continue this all the way around the piece until the beads are locked in place beautifully. And I'll take my time. I want to make sure that I get that nice angle around the beads and around that frame. So when it's all stitched, I have my little card that I can stick inside my fabric journal. This also makes just a beautiful cover for a fabric book or even a page of a fabric book. It's a different way that you can take an image and make it the focus and the focal point of your work. Now let me show you some variations. So here's one in more traditional colors using the little gnome that I painted. I have a little trim on the sides, a little bit of a collage element, some lace. Here's one where I made a ruffle with some red fabric to echo the color from the truck. I have a little ruffle on the bottom. Just think it's really cute. I stitched along the truck here just to give it a little more definition. And then I made a Santa and Mrs. Claus. Just cute little tags. I love the way that these look, and these will be really fun to put inside my fabric journal. I have a little bit of fur trim on the bottom, reminiscent of the beard, some red pom-poms, and then the illustrations. Oh, love it.
So that's how I take a particular image on fabric and use it as the focal point in my work. It's the basis for a little piece of fabric collage. Because my elements are Christmas themed, they're perfect to add to a Christmas journal. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. And please consider becoming a paid member of my channel, where I give additional footage, behind the scenes footage, and additional videos. Thanks for joining me today.